It is the Cult of Hockey podcast for the faithful, by the faithful. Good evening. I'm Kurt Leavins, sitting in for the away David Staples tonight. This is the Cult of Hockey podcast following a 6-3 Edmonton Oilers victory tonight over the two-time defending Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers. Of course, the same club that has defeated the Oilers in June, the last two seasons. You have to say that Edmonton exacted a bit of revenge on Saturday night with the 6-3 win. The Oilers played a dominant first period and they went into the room 3-1, even without a point from McDavid and Draisaitl, who frankly both looked, I thought, fatigued tonight. The Oilers had extended their lead to 4-1 before Edmonton got into penalty trouble in the second period, and bam, suddenly it was just 4-3, and that's how it ended after two periods. Yet, while Florida pushed hard in the third, the Oilers bent, but they didn't break, and they deposited two empty netters late to make it a 6-3 final. In the process, they chased Bobrovsky from the game. Florida's backup came in and held them in at the rest of the game, but they certainly got to their number one guy. That's a big damn win in the last game of what was a really tough 7-game road trip at which they finished 500. And you may recall in previous podcasts, David and I had said prior to this road trip, if you can finish that trip, which is hellacious in terms of miles traveled, cities visited, two back-to-backs and some top-tier teams, if you can finish 500, you're doing well. Well, they did. And they did so without a few key players in the lineup like Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, who's been out for a while, and Jake Wallman, who missed tonight after blocking a shot in the last game against Tampa Bay. Taking a look at some of the big numbers for this game tonight, you could really tell that Florida was the better rested of the two teams. They came on in the back half of the game, but Stuart Skinner was more than solid. Shots were 38-31 for Florida. Face-offs, Florida held a very slight edge. Power play, Florida went 1 for 3. The Oilers 0 for 2. Hits, the Panthers 30, the Oilers 20. The Oilers blocked 13 shots to Florida's 10. You may well argue that that was because Florida had the puck more than the Oilers did in the back half of the game. Lots of really solid performances within this win tonight. So this is the two things, two bad things, two numbers Cult of Hockey podcast. And in David's absence, I'll do two of each tonight. So let's start off with the two good things. My first good things is the top Oilers defense pairing. We all know the struggles that Evan Bouchard and maybe not as frequently, but frequently enough, Matthias Ekholm have faced this year. Both blue liners had been out to tough starts to their season. But tonight, both were excellent. In fact, Evan Bouchard and Matthias Ekholm were both +5 on the night. Bouchard and just an excellent keep at the blue line, then a high to low pass to Roslovic for the 1-0, and then a fake shot turn pass set up Roslovic again for the 2-1. His third assist of the night was a stretch pass to Draisaitl on its way to Podkolzin's 4-1 marker, and that's the goal that chased Bob. Matthias Ekholm, on the other hand, was very good against a very good team. He blasted home the 3-1 goal from the high slot. That was point number 100 as an Edmonton Oiler. Really solid clear in the third period PK, and he assisted on both empty netters. Matthias Ekholm led the Oilers blue liners at 5-on-5 CF at 56%. 3 shots, 2 hits, the game's second star. Evan Bouchard was named the game's third star. So that was my first good thing. Second good thing is Jack Roslovic, the guy who I graded an 8 tonight. Incidentally, I graded Bouchard a 9 and Matthias Ekholm an 8. Those grades are up at the Cult of Hockey right now. You can read them while you listen to this podcast. Jack Roslovic scored his 8th and 9th goals as an Oiler tight. He was excellent all night long and was one of the more fresher looking forwards. He took a Bouchard pass and then fooled Bobrovsky with a kind of a seeing eye shot that found the short side for the 1-0. A strong back check, and then received another pass from Bouchard. This is the one I just described in Bouch's paragraph. This time on his backhand, then switched switched to the forehand, fired it high for the 2-1. The two goals came just 36 seconds apart, the 1-1 and the 2-1. A fine back check on Brad Marchand. A tip off the post denied him of a first period hat trick. I really thought that was going in for his third of the night. Had a quality shot early in the second, drew a second period power play. He was just great tonight. As I said, scored his 8th and 9th of the season tonight. There were lots of good things as you look up and down. Stuart Skinner graded out a 7. He stopped 35 of 38 for the win. Leon Draisaitl, while I thought he looked fatigued at times, really solid defensively, only one high danger scoring chance against, 5-on-5. And we'll get to the fourth line in a minute, but there was a pretty good story on the fourth line tonight as well. Bad things. Well, not a lot. You could have said, well, the fatigue of the Oilers, in the third period, and they let that 4-1 lead slip down to 4-3. But on the 7th game of their toughest road trip in many seasons, I think you're fooling yourself if you thought they weren't going to be fatigued at the end. So I ended up not making that a bad thing. I did pick out 2 players and their performances for the bad things tonight, even though neither player was certainly all bad. But the guy who I thought struggled the most tonight was Alec Regula, who I really like, man. His size and his speed and his ability to see the ice and foreman the puck, I think he's going to be good for this club. But he had his struggles tonight. He failed to erase his man, whose pass in front turned into the 1-1 goal. And then just a brutal shift in the second period where he turned it over not once, but twice, including a grade A chance against for Florida. He did have a heavy hit on Verhaeghe in the third period, but I only graded him a 3. I really thought he struggled back there. A high event game for Ty Emberson. Played a heavy first period. I thought his first 20 was really good. But then he was late to front the shooter on the seam pass across that made it 4-2. And he let up on his man for just a split second, but that's all Sam Bennett needed right in front to make it 4-3. 2 games of inches that worked against Ty Emberson. He really smoked Kunin along the wall in the third period with a heavy hit, and a hard play in front probably helped save a goal against when the score was 4-3. He ended up with 4 hits, certainly not all bad, but he was primarily at fault on those 2 goals against, the 4-2 and the 4-3. Okay, let's pick out the numbers. First, let's pick out this number. The Edmonton Oiler, who led his club tonight in 5v5 CF at 61%. Guess who? Connor Clattenburg. I don't think you would have had that on your bingo card tonight. First game in the NHL for the 20-year-old rookie. What an exciting night. And you know what? He was really good. He drove the net hard for a chance in the first period, and he just missed by an inch or 2 with a wrist shot in the second period. And then what I really liked was he got into a tussle with Greer late when things got rowdy. And he got his hands dirty and grabbed his man around the neck. Had a shot, had a hit. You would have been satisfied with just about anything, given that this is a guy with very little pro experience, not exceptionally skilled offensively, although he displayed pretty decent hands tonight. I thought he gave it all he had at the end of the day. And when you look up and down the box score tonight, and you kind of look at time on ice for everybody, you might have expected that Clattenburg would have been the lowest, and he was. 5 minutes, 47 seconds, but 2 shots, a block and a hit, and a bit of a tussle at the end in just over 5 minutes play. He's got to feel good about that, and it was great to see the kid's family in the stands tonight. His mom and his dad and his sister, who dad was pretty emotional. I don't know if you saw the video on Hockey Night in Canada. The mom and the sister have got spunk. You can see what side of the family he gets it from. It was pretty awesome. Finally, the second number tonight is 500. Not only did the Edmonton Oilers finish this road trip, as I mentioned, at 500, which is thoroughly decent considering the miles, the division of play, and the quality of competition you were facing. But that 2 points, in addition to feeling better on the plane going all those miles back to Edmonton. Also puts the Oilers back into a playoff spot. When you look at the Western Conference wildcard standings, Edmonton is in the second wildcard spot tonight. Their record, while not sparkling, is a solid 10-9-5, 25 points. They're a point back of the Kings, and another point back of Vegas. Although keep in mind, the Oilers have played 24 games, the most of anybody in the Pacific Division. So that standing is a little bit of a false flag, but still, the way things were going for this club to win 2 of their last 3 on the road trip, and to put in the effort that they did, losing in overtime to Tampa Bay, I think it's fair to say, while certainly not all the boxes are ticked, this club is headed back in the right direction. Any other general thoughts before I let everybody go for the night? It's going to be a pretty short podcast because Dave isn't here to bounce things off of. But I thought Skinner was quite good. Quality start from him. He didn't steal the game, but certainly held the club in it when it was 4-3, and didn't allow that 4th goal. Which, ask anybody, that's what you need out of your starting goaltender, is to give you a puncher's chance of winning, and he did tonight, just like Calvin Pickard in Tampa Bay did the game before. McDavid, I thought, scored an empty netter, made a great defensive play, charging back to knock his man down with a sit of a rebound that would have tied the game. So I thought there were some good moments from Connor, but it just wasn't a Connor-esque night. I already mentioned that Roslovic was excellent. Matt Savoy was dogged tonight, just kept his feet moving, eventually scored an empty net goal. He scored a 7 tonight. Bouchard and Ekholm, already talked about them. They were terrific. Draisaitl was a little better than average, but again, looked like he was a bit tired. Podkolzin scored a goal tonight. It was the one that chased Bob, that high wrist shot. Mangiapane, solid defensively, but still nothing with the puck, and he seems to get knocked off the puck earlier than and easier than I remember happening to him. Darnell Nurse and Alex Regula on that second pairing, where Nurse was just okay and Regula was less than okay. The third line, Frederick, Hyman, Henrique, pretty okay. Kulak and Emerson, I thought Kulak was decent. He did get burned on one play, and they eventually scored the 4-3 on the resulting power play. But otherwise, I thought he was solid. And Emerson, as I said, high event game. Okay, the third line. David Tomashek, no assist, but instrumental puck play on the 3-1. Really smart play, showing his offensive awareness. But then a turnover and a hook later in the shift, and Florida scored on the power play with him in the box. Matthias Janmark, I thought was pretty decent tonight. I graded him out of 6. Smart play on the 6-3 empty net goal in the middle of the ice. And I already talked about Connor Clattenburg. The Oilers finally return home on Tuesday night, and they take on the Dallas Stars. And that is it for tonight. I believe David Staples is back Tuesday. You're probably hoping so as well, because it's way better to listen to the two of us debate stuff back and forth in a bit of a verbal tennis match than it is just me blathering on. But those are the highlights of the Oilers closing out that road trip with a 6-3 win over the defending Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers. A pretty solid way to end what was a vaunting road trip. And that's it. In the meantime, and in between times, this has been another edition of the Cult of Hockey podcast.